Hello and welcome to the Hypertrophy Odyssey, chapter 371. It is the second day of the week, aka the special beam cannon workout. I'm feeling very good right now. But anyways, to the main subject matter for today. Some men die in their 20s, but are buried in their 80s. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because yesterday's video right here, I talked about antidepressants and as well as SSRIs and the effect that they've caused, and also as well the underlying root reasons as to probably why they exist and all this other stuff. But I wanted to talk a little bit outside of that because I feel like in there as well is the idea, in which case that happens to a lot of people, and that is that they kind of just metaphysically die in their mid 20s, basically, depending of course, but certain people just kind of get fucked over, really. And I wanted to look into that in different aspects because you can see it a lot with different men and women as well, but mostly men, because women have a chance to be saved from that. Men, once they're gone, they're gone. It's very much a dragging it out until the end. And it's different scenarios, it's different things that happen. It's not necessarily just one type of person or one scenario that rules them all, but different things can really cause people to go down into a spiral of just death, really, to the point where they are just dragging it out because societally they have to. Technically, it's not seen as a good thing to try to end it. And obviously there's a bunch of men who just say fuck it and call it a day, of course. But that's not what we're going to be talking about, although I might touch upon that. I think mostly it's about the what causes this and the process that happens, this slow decay and all this other stuff, because it is an interesting concept, or at least the idea of it is true. You can kind of see it in certain people. I think I've seen it in a couple of people myself personally, but I wouldn't say it's like not necessarily disheartening, but you can tell when a switch has been just shifted in someone and it's no longer the same thing anymore. They are a completely different person. And it's kind of, I would say it is sad in a certain way, because it's like, how can we reverse this? Is because you want to be like the friend, of course, but at the same time, it's not, there's nothing really much you can do realistically unless you set yourself on fire, but they're probably not going to like that either way. So there's a lot to it. So with that being said, we'll talk more about that and a few other things when we get to Mother Base.
Alright, so I've started this day off with squats, which are pretty good. But anyways, back to the main subject matter for today. Some men die in their 20s, but aren't buried until their 70s or 80s. So the main reason why I wanted to discuss this is because I think that this is something that happens quite a bit often, more often than we would like to believe. So I think what causes this is more so something systemic with society and or the idea of what goals are coming from. I think that we have fundamentally ruined the ideals or things that given men purpose or people purpose back in the day, and now have been replaced with absolutely nothing in return. And because of that, that has ruined a lot of the will to live for a lot of people, and thus they end up dying a death, but a more like a soul death, whether it be something because of something they did in the past or early in their life, or because they never found the purpose to continue on going. So a lot of the times what will happen is a lot of these guys will do something either stupid early in life, which will ruin the rest of their life, or just spiritually won't feel the same or never get that feeling that they should probably be getting by the time that they're a full-grown adult. It's not until recent where the life that we live has been extended by 30 to 40 years. So everything after maybe like 50 is a little strange for a lot of people. And I think that strangeness is something that, because we don't get our thoughts or feelings of what should be our goal in life early, we end up having an issue with that, which makes it so that the lack of goals or faith in the future makes it so that these people die spiritually. And a lot of the time, unfortunately, this does lead to people calling it a day. They end up just killing themselves, which is quite terrible. Obviously, this is a big epidemic. I mean, yes, male suicide is a huge number every day. And it sucks too because systemically there's not much that is going on to change it. We are aware of there's situations and or problems that keep occurring, but nothing is really done per se for this type of stuff. And it also sucks because it's not even necessarily just an idea of, let's say, the society bringing us down, but as well as there are a lot of times where people will have tragedy early in their life or even heartbreak that happened early in their life, and then they just never get past it. And it's very unfortunate because you see these people all the time. Specifically, the heartbreak can really make people just completely give up on life, especially if they were madly in love with the person. It is kind of crazy how you can see them downward spiral into complete nothingness, basically wasting away and accelerating the end using drugs and or alcohol or whatever they can in order to get to that final destination point just a little bit quicker in their mind. And it's always saddening to see that because that's really what it is. Going back a little, to go to the grand calling in life, I think is something that a lot of people don't end up getting a lot of the time nowadays. And I think that that's one of the major issues. There's been nothing really to show for it in the sense that you can have an idea of what you want to do in life, but there's nothing really ever telling you how to go about it and or what to do, or at least guide you in the right direction. Most of the time, the systems that are in place nowadays are just for you to become a good worker somewhere, and that's really it. They don't necessarily actually tell you what you want to live life for, and that empty, hollow feeling that usually clouds people's judgments and or futures really makes it so it's hard to get out of the ideas that are just set in front of them, and just they have to kind of accept those types of things. A lot of the times, these are the types of people that will end up dragging their lives out for the sake of somebody around them, whether it be family, friends, or whatever, that once they can go away, they can kind of just go away forever without having to worry about having to bring those people down. And that's a very unfortunate thing because in essence, they are just living in order to be with their families. What is it? Not let them be down. And that's a very unfortunate thing because that shouldn't be the reason to hold on. There should be more than that. And I think that many philosophers back in the day and everything like that have been trying to tell us to find the meanings of what we can do in order to continue life, whether it be an objective or faith in order for it to become better. But we have ignored these things a lot of the time societally for whatever reasons. I have my thoughts, but that's for a different story for a different day. But I think that a lot of the times these things are ignored, and because of that, many people just end up dying a spiritual death and never really wanting to be resuscitated, or just keeping it there until they can leave this plane of existence forever. Women generally don't have to deal with the same thing as men do because they have an intrinsic value to them regardless, at a certain point, of course. But that's just because they can be valuable to someone somewhere with absolutely nothing else going on. But this can affect them in a certain sense as well, where they have a little bit of a lacking of what it is to live. But that's a little bit different in a certain sense because that has to do with the female intuition, which has been ruined, and a whole other host of things, but that's for a different story for a different day. And it truly sucks. And I really do hope that people that are out there feeling like this can find something to live for, because life is worth living.
And we're back. Welcome to the workout debriefing. Exercises not filmed, none. Exercises skipped, also none. Got everything in, thankfully. But anyways, back to the main subject matter at hand. Some men die in their 20s and are just buried in their 80s. So the main reason why I want to discuss this is because this is about living life. And also sometimes people's soul dies. They have what is an ego death, but that's kind of a different story in a weird way. But some people do just die. Their will to live is just vanished, and they're nothing but a husk of the former selves. And a lot of things can cause that. I've probably talked about it in the voiceover, but this happens, and you can see a lot of men who do this, and a lot of them will just commit suicide immediately after, probably a little bit later, because their soul has been sucked out of them one way or another. Obviously, sometimes they just aren't even born with it, but that will be a whole other discussion. I do want to do a whole series about the soul, because the soul is something so metaphysically important, but yet all of a sudden it isn't known exactly. It's something that we know, but we don't know at the same time. So it's a very interesting subject matter. But this is, alone is kind of like a male mental crisis, I would say, that happens a lot more than people would like to admit. At least the idea that they're just biting through life until the very bitter end because they just don't either have the willpower to end it all or the willpower to will their soul back into their body. One of the two happens. And a lot of it is very interesting to me personally because thankfully those types of things haven't happened to me personally, but I've seen it happen to others. And though my heart goes to those people because realistically, what can you really do? Once the soul is gone, it is one of those things that is so hard to get back into you. So just seeing them basically decaying into what is a whole lot of nothing, or relying on one of the many vices that are out there in order to fill the void that is what should have been their soul in order to continue on their life, unfortunately has just been tarnished by whatever thing that they decide to fill it with. And it sucks because a lot of the time what they're filling it with is just a temporary thing that just breaks their body down to make it so they get to the end point a little quicker. And I think that societally wise, we should probably do more as to figuring out what are these things that happen regularly and or commonly that we could probably at least try to prevent it, so that way people may maybe they can have it happen, but at least a bit later in life, or at least where things are set in stone in their life rather than in their 20s when they're young and have a lot of, vigor in the world and have the ability to do whatever they want to. The world is their oyster, but yet they don't even see it like that. They see the world is a noose hanging from the ceiling fan, that's it. Like, that's an insane thing to even think about, but there are certain people that are just like that. And it's a very unfortunate thing to talk about. And this isn't like a nihilistic thing, because some of them are, but that's a different story. We'll talk about nihilism on a different day, but this is just more of a soul that is no longer really with us anymore, and they have spiritually passed us, and it's very unfortunate. But with that being said, tell me what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions about this one. If you know anybody or have seen this story play out in front of your eyes, whether it ended prematurely, unfortunately, or you see this person going on via life, just kind of living their life via a vice or another, and just kind of seeing the ever-present decay that's slowly eating them alive. But I would love to know your thoughts or stories in the comment section down below. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Please share this video with anybody who may or may not like it. I will be back on tomorrow with a new video. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I will see you in the next one. Keep it heavy. Stay safe out there and stay cool. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace!